Welcome to ConnectVegas. We feature conversations with Las Vegas creators and leaders, learn about their work, and explore our shared love of our favorite city. And now, welcome our host, Ben Laifsky.
Hi, my name is Ben Laifsky, and welcome to ConnectVegas. This is my 25th year in Las Vegas, and in that time I've been able to have some incredible experiences and get to know some amazing people. This project is going to feature conversations with some of those folks from the worlds of technology, business, and creativity. We'll get to know about their love of the city, about their work, and about their backgrounds. Our first conversation is with Rob Jeremiassen of Sandler ScaleUP Advisors, and we'll learn how his business helps his clients level up in their sales and leadership skills. We hope you enjoy it. If you do, please like, comment, and share, and we'd love to hear from you if you'd like to be a guest on an upcoming episode. Thank you. Welcome, Rob Jeremiasson with Sandler. Rob, can you tell me who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ben. Good to be here. My name is Rob Jeremiasson, and my company here in Las Vegas is called ScaleUP Advisors. And what we do is we deliver Sandler training and consulting. And Sandler has expertise in areas of sales training, management, leadership training, organizational development, and sort of customer care. Those are the areas we train and have programs in, and we'll talk a little bit more about what all that means and what it is.
Thanks, Rob. Before we get into Sandler, I'd like to learn a little bit about you.
Sure.
Where'd you grow up? What were you like as a young person? What were your hobbies? What were you interested in?
Sure. Okay, so we go way back here, Ben. We'll take it back to the beginning. I'm a native Minnesotan, born in Minneapolis. I'm a long-suffering Minnesota Viking fan because of that. So I grew up in Minnesota, Rivertown, Mississippi Rivertown. As a kid, multiple climates, right? Hot, humid summers, really, really, really cold winters. But outdoor activities was the main thing. A lot of sports, that kind of stuff. I played basketball. I played golf competitively as a kid, but liked to be outdoors in the water, hiking, skiing, that kind of stuff. Pretty active kid. As I grew up and I left the frozen tundra of Minnesota, I migrated to many places actually along the way to where I am now in Vegas, but migrated to California. Was in Austin, Texas for a while, where I really started my professional career. And then I spent 17 years overseas. I was in Australia for 14 of 17 years with a 3-year stint in Singapore. So traveling became like a hobby, something I've done a whole lot of. I've really enjoyed. So I don't do as much globetrotting anymore, which is okay. But I'd like to do a lot of, side trips and that kind of stuff. I just like travel and see new things, do new things, etc. So that's a little bit about me, I guess. So any other things you want to maybe chat about, Ben, on that front?
Well, yeah. What led you to sales and business development?
Sure.
What led you to that line of profession?
Yeah, my original career path, in university, I want to be an airline pilot, and so I did my university degree in business, but I did also some aviation and training and flying. So I did my flight certificates. I started doing flight instruction and the like. And when I finished school, it wasn't an awesome time in the airline industry, and I wasn't sure. I really like learning to fly. I didn't know that flying for a living was exactly what was really the right path for me. So long story short, I ended up sort of doing some stuff in aviation, but not really sure that was the right thing for me. Had some university friends and people I knew in Austin that kept telling me, hey, you got to come and check out this company, Dell. And this is back in the late 90s. And Dell was a rocket ship and incredible business and company. And so I ended up moving to Austin, starting to work there. And then the rest kind of transitioned. And that was in sales, right? So sales, and I did sales roles. And then I was interested in international business development. So that's how I ended up in Australia. And, from there did sales management, sales leadership, general manager type roles, manage, big teams or geographies and the like across Asia Pacific, and different subsections of that region. When I left Dell, I'd done some stuff in software, in technology, software company, ERP company, and coming back to the U.S. in 2018, and then went from that software company. I started doing some stuff, and it was during COVID, with a startup in cyberspace, right? And so I've always had that. I've been involved in sales and sales leadership for almost all of my professional career.
Oh, that's great. So every salesperson I know, kind of like every fisherman I know, they have the story of the biggest deals they ever landed. Do you have maybe some stories like that that'd be fun to share?
Biggest deals. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a couple. Somewhere where I was leading a team, so it wasn't me so much involved. I guess one that would be, I always remember, and it ended up coming to fruition, but in a exceptionally long, arduous, painful process. This is when I was in Australia. I was managing director for this ERP company. It was it's much smaller business, and one of the clients that we had business with was Qantas Airlines, right, which is a huge brand, global recognized brand in Australia. And we had, a small piece of the business there, but it was meaningful to us. And this was an ERP space they had. We were migrating them to a better and newer system, but moving from what was called on-premise, them managing it, to a cloud solution. And that was where obviously everything's going cloud, and that was the strategy of the company. So it was a monumentally big deal. The problem was it took 3 years to come to fruition, right? I mean, it was ridiculous. And so the learnings from that were, I wish I had some of the stuff I've now learned with Sandler, which we can talk a bit about. I wish I had, because it would have really been a different way in which we would go after an opportunity like that. So it was like painful, exciting all at the same time, and just took forever. But it was, it's one of those where you kind of remember it because of all those things. But I certainly learned things I would have done differently, in hindsight.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, let's use that as let's talk about Sandler.
Okay.
What led you to Sandler? What about their approach or their philosophy resonates
Right.
with you? Tell us about that.
So yeah, Sandler. So how this came to was I have a business partner, and we've known each other since the early 2000s and done similar things, in technology, big multinationals, medium-sized, and startups. And so we both were back in the U.S. about the same time. And during COVID, we were sort of like, both of us were like, we got to do something different. We weren't doing something that was like permanent or real long term, and it was COVID, so it was a weird time. And we were both thinking, well, what do we want to do? And it was sort of like, which treadmill do we want to get back on? We've done the different types of sizes and scopes of companies. So which one would we want to try to target to go back to? And we kind of didn't really want to do any of those again. And so we were like, okay, well, we should try to do something ourselves. So what does that look like? Right. So basically we spent about 6 months working on that, thinking about that. Long story short, with Sandler, we found, a person that does sort of business franchises, identification for people based on your background, your interest, and that sort of stuff. And we started looking at some of those. Sandler was one of those. And we quickly weeded out the others. And then we did a lot of due diligence. Said, if we're going to do it, it's going to be with this one. Let's go spend some time looking into this. And Sandler was exceptionally helpful in that process. And that's how we landed on it.
Can you describe, what is Sandler's? Can you characterize the approach or the philosophy?
Yeah, I think a couple things are on it. Well, first of all, I think what drew us certainly, and one of the very big attributes for myself in the business, and having my own business, and Sandler's, the network of other Sandler business owners. So again, it's consider it's like a franchise model, right? And so there's hundreds of franchises around, and the network of the owners was incredibly collaborative, open, helpful. They told you all the challenges that come with it and all the goods that come with it, and help you get from A to Z, if you will. So it was a great way to feel confident about what I was going into with Sandler. That was one thing, right? But in terms of your question around, some of the approach and some of the things, let's talk about it. Maybe I'll talk about it in two ways. One with this, let's say on a sales training, sales started to focus. I guess a couple things is the model at which we train it's a no pressure sort of selling system and philosophy, right? It's not, it's a disarming style and approach in which you go about. I have found, and it is very much more, it's a much more comfortable engagement for a prospect or a person that's buying, right? And so it teaches also that you as the seller, your time is of equal value than that of the buyer, right? And that's not a common mentality for salespeople, right? It's like, well, I'll do whatever I can to get business with that person, right? So it teaches it in a different light, and that the other thing is, of course, a buyer is qualifying you for your service or product, but your job is to qualify the buyer for your time. In other words, do they have a problem that I can fix? Is it important enough for them that they're going to do something about it? I need to qualify that. I need to know if you have the money to fix that problem that we've uncovered together. And the way in which you just make a decision, does that make any sense at all? Is that going to happen? Do I want to take part in that? So you're qualifying the buyer as well, which is a very important and very different perspective on it. And then I guess the other thing is the process in which you have a sales engagement. There's absolute clarity as you go through each step. Clarity for you, clarity for them, and the ownership. And it really spells out a much cleaner path, if you will, than what I certainly experienced for many, many years and have seen in the past. So that's a couple things, right? No is a perfectly acceptable answer. I'm not going to try to force you into a yes, right? And that really, if I do my job, I'm going to lead you, the prospect or the client, to find the right answer, right? And I'm not pushing myself and my solution to you. I'm helping you uncover what you need. And in the end, hopefully you're going to find that I'm the right one to do that with you. So that's a little bit of an answer to it. I think that's what I found to be different than sales training I've had in the past or experiences that I've had in the past.
That seems very different than a lot of people that come to mind.
Sure.
They're hoping to talk to, anybody that'll listen, or
Right.
they're always following up, hoping that this time around maybe you'd be interested. Like this seems like a very different approach.
It is. And it's not like some revolutionary, completely different idea or something, but it's really, it's just a little bit of a twist and counterintuitive process changes and methodology changes and just approach that may be a little bit different. And all those things come together in a way that it is what you described. So as long as the person's willing to make some adjustments and changes to what they've learned, what they've done, and get comfortable being uncomfortable for a little bit in some areas, person can do very, very well with it. There's a leadership one you want me to talk about as well, just a little bit on that, because there's, from a management leadership perspective, I think there's some content that's really fantastic for business owner, CXO person, sales leader of the business, and a program that there's three facets we work on. One is leadership for the leader. Where are they now, right? And where do they want to be or where they need to be? And so where those gaps are, right? And then how do we get that person there? The second part is the people side. Obviously, you're running the business, you're running the team on people. So how do we, the best ways to identify what you need, how to find, source, and attract, interview, select, onboard, and then develop and grow and scale, right? People. And then the business bit, this, the fundamentals around running an efficient business, the metrics, the processes, the things that you need to do to succeed on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual type of basis. And then what's particularly helpful is the what stuff. And many people have some of that what stuff, but they don't necessarily have all the hows and the tools. And Sandler has so much content, but so many tools as well to help with those things. So the structure, the process, and the tools really are great for that. And so that's a program that it can be a 3-year program actually, right? So you've got sort of, think of it as 101, like a university course, 101, 201, 301, right? You don't have to do all 3, but you can, and many do. So that's a snapshot of kind of the leadership programs that have proven to be very, very helpful.
That's great. Maybe you could talk about who are typical clients of Sandler Consulting.
Sure.
And are they coming to you because something happened, like they lost a sale or they had some event that was negative that they're trying to prevent in the future?
Yeah. So typical clients. So basically, I mean, it's start with B2B, right? So we don't really focus on a consumer-oriented transactional business. What we do is not, it could help, but it's not the focus for sure. So a B2B, and it is a broad industry availability. In other words, it's only really applicable for technology or for finance and banking sort of stuff. So for a business owner, a franchisee of Sandler, a common customer might be, let's say 10 million in revenue to 500 million. Okay, so and that's a big, huge difference, right? And so, we can do things for very small companies. The sweet spot would be where you have a sales team or teams, right? Again, there's sales maybe issues that they want to address. There's management. If you've got a company that says there may be some challenges that they want to address there, more broadly organizational based type of things, or it could be the people that support the clients or the customers, the customer care type of stuff. Whatever if they have challenges, it could be in the area. Those we can help in a number of ways, and so that would be the sweet spot. Sandler does have works in the Fortune 1000 space, and that's typically done by not someone like myself or my peers, but an enterprise team that handles more of that traditional enterprise type of business.
And you touched on this a little bit, but maybe if you could expand about Sandler's offerings.
Yeah.
When do you steer somebody, or do you start them on online coaching, or do you group sessions, or what does that look like?
Sure. Okay. So the online bit, there is an online Sandler online that I guess you could have as that's your mechanism for training, but that comes with the actual training typically, right? And so in terms of, I guess is your question, how do we deliver the content? Is that, yeah, okay. So how this has come, and now in 2024, pre-COVID, there was a mix of in-person, on-site, or a Sandler office, and then the virtual stuff started picking up, right? So there's a mix of that. COVID hits, everything goes virtual. Sandler was really quick at adopting that virtual approach and accelerating the way in which to make that training work really well. Post-COVID, almost everything has stayed virtual. And Sandler being as big as it is from a reach perspective with so many franchisees and what have you, the scale is quite significant. So what's worked really well is the vast majority of training is live virtual interactive, right? So it's on Zoom. And my business and how we couple with a handful of other Sandler businesses. So Sandler experts and trainers, they bring their clients, whether it's sales training, management, leadership, that kind of stuff, different courses together. And so we deliver the content with this a group of Sandler experts and trainers with all their clients. So as a learner, as a client coming in, you're obviously getting the Sandler content and the structure in which it's done, but you're also working collaboratively with peers that are from different places, different industries, different levels. And it's really turned out to be exceptionally beneficial, that piece of it. And so it's very flexible for clients, right? They don't have to drive across town, or they don't have to be in the office. I mean, so as long as the person is, the thing we say, as long as you're on, video on and engaged, we don't want you off camera driving, right? And so everyone, as good as you can get everyone engaged there, and so it's worked out really, really effectively. So that's the trick. There are some things that I will do. It's on in person. It might be a 2-day thing that leads into the longer term weekly stuff. So there's a variety of ways to do it, but the vast majority now is done that way.
That's great. I want to focus a little bit on sales. What are some of the common mistakes you see a lot of people making that Sandler will help correct?
Okay, that's a good one. I think so. Common issues. There's a couple for a salesperson. We'll talk about first is lack of qualifying, right? They do not qualify the opportunity well. They know this is let's say a big customer, and we know then they spend a lot of money on whatever said thing that you have, and you're just chasing it, right? Whether or not there's any chance of anything happening is irrelevant for many. They're just going for it, right? So that's a big one, and that's where you get the long sales cycles that never die. They just keep going and going and going, right? And then nothing comes out the chute. The other is salespeople are sort of programmed or trained or feel obligation to do a lot of telling, a lot of selling, right? And it's all about how I might not dig into what it actually you're looking for, what your problems are, but I'm going to tell you all about what I have in hopes that it's so impressive to you, you're going to buy from me, right? So telling and selling rather than, which is what we train is, especially in the early parts of an engagement, is purely no selling, only asking questions and the right type of questions to understand what them first before we do anything about what we do, right? So that's one. And then the other thing is there's really oftentimes not a process that is that they can follow and do each and every time, right? Gap of process, and then sort of not really having a mechanism to control the conversation sales cycle in a mutually benefiting way. That's another one.
I love those examples.
Yeah.
It really gives the sales rep more professionalism, more agency. Really seems to present the salesperson in a completely different way.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the point. So the earliest part of the engagement is that bonding and rapport bit, and so what we teach are specific ways to help generate that more efficiently and better in a professional way that puts you in a good light, that helps you get to what you want to strive for, what we call equal business stature, right? You might be the owner of a very successful company. I am not some groveling salesperson that's just hoping you drop some crumbs my way, but I have a solution. I'm sitting down with you because you have a need. I'm going to work out if your need meets and my solution meet each other where they need to do business together. But I have something of value, and so I'm an equal business stature. And then the other thing about is I have to create trust as quickly as possible, because no one's going to buy anything from someone that they don't trust, right? And so that's absolutely true. The other thing I would say on the issues or challenges that we typically see from a management or leadership perspective is many companies, especially in that small medium sized businesses, they're growing 10 million to 15 to 20 to 30, however their path has been, and they're just kind of making it up as they go, right? And at some point it's like, wow, we got to do things differently, because when we were 10 million, now we're 30. Gee, we need to figure something out. And it's like, we'll make it up and try to do it that way differently. And many companies that they don't have the they don't have the gift of a roadmap and the tool sets that are readily available, and they're trying to do the best they can, right? And sometimes that works great, but it may have limitations, and there may be things they're not seeing, or things that could make it a lot easier as they go on that journey.
I love that. In terms of Sandler, what else, is there anything we didn't talk about that people should know about Sandler and the things that you're offering?
I think, it's a very, I think you'd asked a question maybe that we didn't get to, which was, why do people come to Sandler, or something to that effect? And so, I think if a business is, most of our clients are doing, we don't work with terrible companies that are almost out of business, right? That's because, firstly, they don't have the money for training if that's the case, right? So these are companies that are doing well, right? They just either they know they can and want to do better, and they have some understanding where they might be missing some things that they want to get some help with, or they don't necessarily immediately know they've got this problem until some discussion is had about it, right? And so those are typically those are the two different things. Is they just want to do better, and they know they got some gaps, and we talk about that. And if Sandler's a match, things we progress forward. Sometimes we've gotten together. I don't really know if I need anything that I got. When we talk about their business and dig into some things that maybe seem like a problem, but not the end of the world, get under the covers a bit in it. Oh, there is some things we probably should do differently or better. So those are the sort of paths that I would typically go down with either a known issue that they really want to fix, or I don't know, things seem to be going pretty good. I'm not sure I need anything, but I don't know, let's have a chat. Right. And sometimes that is, you're right, there isn't a fit, and that's no problem. It's totally, as I mentioned, totally okay to say no. I don't want anybody to think that I sit down with them and I'm going to hound them to death until they tell me yes. No, I have no interest in that, none whatsoever. Right. If I can't fix a problem that you have enough need to do something about, we don't have to continue. That's totally fine. Right. So
Love that. Love
yeah.
that. Thought we'd talk a little Vegas business. I know
Yes.
you all are pretty active in the community. What are some of the organizations that you're a part of or that you recommend?
Yeah. So association, we do. Okay. So chambers, a lot of stuff with chambers, right? They can be really good. You have to be diligent about the things that are there, but there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of things on offer, right? That get you into different parts of the community or people you didn't know before. We also do a fair bit around with some associations, a couple in the construction industry. That's a big one here. Hospitality, obviously, as well. So those are really can be helpful. And then there's a couple of different networking type of groups, maybe focused in a certain area that we've joined. There's a new one coming. It's not official yet in Vegas, but it's one that's in a variety of parts of the country, and some Sandler people are part of it. And it's been a really good one for that B2B, I don't know, medium-sized company sort of stuff that's coming to town. Hope to be a part of that one. I probably shouldn't say what it is, but it's something that's launching in sort of the April timeframe. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Vegas is a networking town for sure. Ben, you're the king of what's going on in this town, right? And so, I think for me, what I learned after the first sort of 6-9 months was you got to pick and choose where you spend your time, right? Because what I found, my partner and I, David, found is we spread ourselves too thin, and we're like, oh, that's good, oh, that's good, oh, that's good, that's good, and we weren't getting. It wasn't getting us the traction we needed because we were spread too thin. So you had to cut back a bit, right? And so I guess from my learning experience is find the things that are most important for you and your business and do the fewer of them well rather than a lot of them not very well.
I love that. Do you want to name any of the chambers or associations you're a part of?
Sure. I mean, like Vegas Chamber, obviously. We've done stuff with Henderson Chamber. Those are two big ones. There are others, the Latin Chamber, and there's a variety of others, but those are the two that we have spent time in. Nevada Contractors Association, Nevada Subcontractors Association. Those are really, really well-run groups for that industry. LVHA, the Las Vegas Hospitality Associations, they put on awesome events. Like they do. I'm sure you've been to them, Ben. They do. They're a good and fun one to be a part of. So there's a couple for sure.
That's great. How about just more generally about Vegas, the things that,
Yeah.
what are some of the things you enjoy, like hotels or restaurants or places to view the city?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's so much happening here, right? And there's so much change and growth, and it's amazing. I think a couple of things. I love Red Rock Canyon. Like, I just think having something like that, like literally next door in the city, like which you can see from the city, but like when you're up in it, like I said, I love hiking and I love outdoor stuff. It's just, I think that's awesome. I love either being up in there or just being, let's say in Summerlin and you're real close to it. Like, that's cool. I mean, like, I went just the first time last week with my son to the Sphere, right? Like, that thing is unreal. Like, what a creative piece of genius that thing was, right? Like, I was blown away at how cool it was, right? And so we didn't go to U2, but we went to the, Postcards from Earth. Just an amazing experience, I thought. Just incredible. So what else? You said restaurants. There's so many, right? Like, my God, just for example, just this a week ago, I went for the first time to a Mediterranean restaurant downtown. It's called The Greek. And I love Mediterranean food. It's a casual, it's not a fancy, you don't spend a ton of money. Delicious, fantastic food, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd uncovered this earlier. I think maybe one of my favorites maybe is Wing Lai, a Cantonese restaurant in the Wynn. Man, and so that's a very nice restaurant, and that food is just delightful. So man, there's just so many. So I guess I like trying as many new things as I can. Would you ask favorite hotel? I mean, I think the Wynn is a gorgeous hotel. It's just beautiful, right? Bellagio, Caesars are nice and a lot of fun. Like, there's just like it's stuff to do. Those are, I don't go to the Strip that often, right? But guests come in, or they're often, of course, events a lot of times at these hotels, and so you do get to go and see a lot of them. But those are maybe some of my favorites.
Love that. And now I'm very, very hungry.
Yeah, right. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Probably the Cosmo. Probably
Hotel?
Monamiga B, just because I
Yeah.
love that view, and when you can see the fountains,
Yeah.
that's great. The Sphere is fantastic, and I
Yeah.
love all the places that you can be, like on a rooftop looking over the city and
Yeah.
seeing those lights.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I mean, I think like I'm in Henderson as I speak. You live here. You get up in the elevation a little bit, right? In Henderson, and just seeing the entire valley, right? And that's pretty awesome. Get Summerlin somewhere, a little elevation, being able to see it. Like, it's got some amazing perspectives on the broader city and the valley, right? And it's so amazing as you go kind of sundown, coming down, sunset, and then at night, right? It's pretty cool.
I love that. Well, I'm really grateful for your time. We're going to include your links when we publish, but please tell us, if somebody's interested in learning more, what should they do?
Yeah, easy. That's a great question. Look, if they were just, hey, tell me more about Sandler, whether, or you wanted to, I would like to talk to you about your business. And so if you wanted to reach out, a conversation simply for me when I first meet someone is just tell me about your business. What are the challenges that you have, and spend a few minutes talking about those. Explain, here's who Sandler is. Here's what we do. Here's where our expertise is and how we work with clients. And at the end of that conversation, if it feels like they have a problem that I can fix, and they think that I might be a fit for them, we'll then plan for that next step, which maybe is digging in a little bit further, right? And so you can do that in 20, 30 minutes. just kind of see if that's something that makes sense. For me, again, if it isn't, it's a good networking opportunity, right? I met someone new and learned something about their business. They learn more, you know what I mean? Like, so I never have a, gee, I'm disappointed that didn't work out. If there wasn't any next step, I've met someone new and learned something different, right? So anyway, that's kind of how a conversation would be if anyone was interested to talk a little bit more. And I think you'll, have my phone number and email and that sort of stuff available, and happy to chat if someone's interested.
Well, that's great. I appreciate your time, and I can't wait to see you out and about.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.